The middle way, the path beyond extremes, one of the most profound and essential teachings of Buddhism, is the concept of the middle way, Sanskrit Madhyam, Pratapat, Pali, Majjhim, Pa, Ipa. At its core, the middle way represents the Buddha's discovery of a path to liberation that avoids the extremes of self-indulgence and self-mortification. It is not merely a compromise or a middle point between two opposites, but a dynamic principle of balance, insight, and transcendence. The middle way lies at the very heart of the Buddhist path, shaping doctrines, meditation practices, and ethical living. In this essay, we will explore the origins of the middle way, its meaning within the context of the Buddha's own journey, its philosophical depth in both early and later Buddhist traditions, and its relevance for modern seekers, navigating the challenges of life. 1. The historical context of the middle way. The teaching of the middle way emerged directly from the lived experience of Siddhartha Gautama, who later became known as the Buddha. Before his awakening, Siddhartha lived through two extremes. First, he was raised in luxury within the palace of Kapilavastu. His father, King Suddhodana, shielded him from the realities of suffering, surrounding him with pleasures, wealth, music, and comforts. Siddhartha indulged in these worldly delights, yet he found them ultimately unsatisfying and impermanent. Second, after renouncing his princely life, Siddhartha pursued ascetic practices in the forest. For nearly 6 years, he engaged in severe fasting, holding his breath for long durations, and practicing extreme austerities, believing that mortifying the body would purify the mind and lead to enlightenment. However, this approach brought him to the brink of death without yielding the liberating wisdom he sought at the point of near collapse. Siddhartha realized that neither sensual indulgence nor self-mortification could bring true freedom from suffering. Accepting a bowl of milk rice offered by Sujata, he regained his strength and sat beneath the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya there. He resolved to meditate until he discovered the truth. This shift in his approach marked the birth of the middle way, the path that avoids extremes and leads directly to awakening. 2. The middle way. In the Buddha's first teaching after attaining enlightenment, the Buddha traveled to Sarnath, where he delivered his first sermon to the 5 ascetics who had once been his companions. This teaching, known as the Dhammacakkappavant Sutta, the discourse on turning the wheel of Dharma, introduced the 4 noble truths and the noble eightfold path. In that discourse, the Buddha declared, "Monks, these 2 extremes ought not to be practiced by one who has gone forth. Indulgence in sensual pleasures, which is low, vulgar, worldly, ignoble, and unbeneficial, and self-mortification, which is painful, ignoble, and unbeneficial." Without veering towards either of these extremes, the Tathagata has awakened to the middle way, which gives rise to vision, which gives rise to knowledge, which leads to peace, to higher knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbana. This passage clearly positions the middle way as the essence of the Buddha's realization. It is not only a rejection of 2 unproductive lifestyles, but also a positive discovery of the Eightfold Path, which integrates wisdom, ethics, and meditation into a holistic framework. 3. The philosophical meaning of the middle way. On a deeper level, the middle way is not merely about moderation in lifestyle, but also about transcending dualistic extremes in thought and perception. 3.1. The middle way as practical ethics in its earliest form. The middle way is embodied in the Noble Eightfold Path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. This framework avoids both hedonism and self-denial, offering a balanced and integrated way of living that harmonizes ethical conduct, mental discipline, and insight. 3.2. The middle way in Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist traditions, especially the Madhyamaka school, founded by Nagarjuna, expanded the meaning of the middle way into a profound philosophical doctrine. Nagarjuna argued that reality itself should be understood through the principle of emptiness. Niyati rejected the extremes of eternalism, the belief that things have an unchanging essence, and nihilism, the belief that nothing exists or has value. The middle way, according to Nagarjuna, is the insight that all phenomena are empty of inherent existence, yet still function through dependent origination. In this sense, the middle way becomes not just a path of practice, but also a radical vision of reality that transcends all conceptual extremes. 3.3. The middle way and non-dualitarian of the middle way is non-duality. The realization that apparent opposites, such as self, other, samsara, nirvana, subject-object, object, are ultimately inseparable. The middle way dissolves rigid conceptual boundaries, allowing the practitioner to perceive the fluid and interdependent nature of reality. 4. The middle way. As a path of meditation, the middle way is also reflected in Buddhist meditation. In concentration practices, the practitioner learns to avoid the extremes of restlessness and lethargy, cultivating instead a steady and balanced attention. In mindfulness practice, one avoids both clinging to pleasant experiences and rejecting unpleasant ones, instead observing them with equanimity. Similarly, in cultivating wisdom, the meditator avoids the extremes of blind faith and rigid skepticism, opening instead to direct experiential insight. This meditative balance embodies the very spirit of the middle way. 5. The middle way in modern life. Though rooted in ancient India, the middle way remains profoundly relevant for people today. 5.1. Balance in daily living. In the modern world, people are often pulled between extremes: consumerism and asceticism, workaholism and escapism, dogmatism and relativism. The middle way offers a framework for balance, reminding us that peace and clarity arise when we avoid clinging to extremes and cultivate harmony in body, speech, and mind. 5.2. Beyond polarization. In a time marked by political, cultural, and social polarization, the middle way teaches us to move beyond binary thinking. It encourages dialogue, compassion, and openness instead of rigidly clinging to one side of an argument. This does not mean passivity, but the courage to stand in wisdom that transcends dualistic conflict. 5.3. Psychological well-being and psychology. The middle way can be compared to the principle of emotional regulation and resilience, avoiding extremes of suppression and overindulgence. Individuals learn to acknowledge emotions with mindfulness and wisdom. This balance leads to healthier relationships and mental well-being. 6. The ultimate middle way, nirvana. Ultimately, the middle way points beyond itself. It leads not only to ethical balance and mental clarity, but to nirvana, the cessation of suffering and the realization of ultimate truth. The middle way is the path beyond paths, dissolving the extremes of existence and non-existence, of self and no-self, of samsara and nirvana. It opens the doorway to a dimension of freedom beyond duality. Conclusion. The middle way is one of the most powerful and transformative insights of Buddhism. Born from the Buddha's direct experience, it provides a practical guide for ethical conduct, meditation, and wisdom. At the same time, it represents a profound philosophical principle that transcends all dualities and conceptual extremes, whether interpreted as a path of moderation, as the philosophy of emptiness, or as the lived experience of balance in daily life. The middle way continues to guide seekers toward peace, freedom, and enlightenment. In a world dominated by extremes, the middle way is not merely an ancient teaching but an urgent message for our time. Liberation is found not in excess or denial, but in the wisdom that transcends both.